Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mindful Poetry Moments during National Poetry Month. This is our third week of glorious mindful poetry gatherings. It's always a delight to see all of the familiar faces and also some new names and faces. So I am Stacy Sims, and I'm the founder of The Well, and I'm joined by Ro Schnoor, who is the associate director of The Well. And we've been holding these spaces for listening, writing, sharing, learning, expanding with one another with the help of our amazing partners, the On Being Project. So Eddie Gonzalez is here from the On Being Project. We have the founder emeritus here from the Hive, and perhaps some other folks from the Hive. I haven't scrolled through, so welcome to all of our Hive partners. We partner with Wordplay in the Mercantile Library, and we're very excited to be here. We're also supported by closed caption services. So if you want in real time auto transcript, you just click on the live transcript below, and Mary will be documenting what is spoken. For those of you who are new to the program, it's a simple framework. Astoundingly potent for such a simple framework. Maybe all we need is to simplify frameworks. We're going to have a meditation. We're going to have a poet talking about his poem, sharing writing prompts with us this week. We'll have a series of prompts. We have time to write, and then we have time to share. We have other layers to the sharing, but I'm going to get to that at the end. So I'm super excited today to introduce or reintroduce, starting with Rana Dotson. Rana Dotson is a healer who has had multiple powerful government roles and other roles in her resume, and is now doing the most sacred healing work of all, which is taking time for self-healing. And Rana is on the board of the Well, and Rana will be opening up the meditation space for us. And then we're going to have the treat to listen to and learn from Brad Aaron Modlin, whose official title is the Chair of Creative Writing at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Brad is a poet and writer of multiple dimensions. And this week we're listening to a poem, a wonderful poem from his book, Everyone at This Party Has Two Names. And the poem name is On the Last Day of the Semester, the library is so crowded with Raucous historical and literary figures, it's hard to tell people apart. So we're very excited to be here, and I'm going to turn it over to the glorious Rana Dotson.
Thank you, Stacy. So good to be here, everybody. So good to see everybody's faces. I am Rana, daughter of Edwanda, daughter of Ardola, daughter of Nan, daughter of Mary. And I'm sitting in Accokeek, Maryland, which is the original home of the Accokeek people and the Piscataway people, and later was worked by ancestors that could have been my ancestors. So I welcome you into this space. And today I want us to have the opportunity to just prepare for some time of creativity, some time of connection with ourselves, connection with one another, and connection with our teachers, both past and present. So if you would join me Just get yourself comfortable in your seat. If you would like to lie down, that's fine. If you want to have your camera on or off, whatever is most comfortable for you. You can have your eyes open or closed. And we just are going to put our feet right and left on the floor. If you are barefoot and you can feel the ground, that's good. If you have on shoes and you can take them off, that's good. But let's just feel the bottoms of our feet together. And just notice whether the ground touching your foot feels cool or warm. Just notice how your feet feel and allow the ground to support you. And remind yourself that you are supported by this ground and that you are grounded by so many. I just want you to notice your legs and the outer periphery of your body. That is your container, your skin. Just begin to pay attention to the outer extremities of your fingers. Notice your shoulders. If they feel tense, then just take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, just let them drop down towards the ground. Inhale. Exhale. Now let's notice the feeling of the skin on our faces. Maybe there's a breeze, maybe not. Just allow your face to rest. Feel the crown of your heads. And now notice that your whole body is with you. Now, if you would place your hand on your heart with me. And we're going to inhale together. And on the exhale, think of the name of someone who has been a teacher to you. Inhale. And on the exhale, say their name out loud. Inhale. Think of this person with gratitude. Exhale. Say their name out loud. You may have more than one teacher. They could be an ancestor. They could be a child. They could be someone who you live with now. This person may even be an enemy. But as you inhale gratitude. And exhale, saying their name. Now that you've had a chance to greet your teachers, I hope that you will invite them to stick around for our time together. And as we settle into our time of writing and creativity together. Open your eyes. Come back to the room. Come back together. And I hope that you feel the support and the grounding and all of the love and all of the wisdom that you carry with you into this moment. I'm going to turn it over to Brad. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Rana. Well, Ro, I'll open by reading the poem. So if you want to share it on the screen, that's fine. Thank you. On the last day of the semester, the library is so crowded with raucous historical and literary figures, it's hard to tell people apart. But here, on the left, past Gilgamesh doing handstands on the checkout desk and shout reminding everyone he was twice crowned homecoming king, past him, and past giggly Johann Gutenberg photocopying trashy romance novels for his frat brothers, beyond Pope Joan and Joan of Arc and Jonah, who lurks by the two women and makes whale calls, hoping to mate with either one in the microfiche room, is the quiet corner window where I sit with Telemachus, son of Penelope. But he's difficult to recognize because he's lost the all-American smile the whole campus loved. In front of his face, he holds a crumpled copy of The Iliad. He sets the book down onto stacks of flashcards, and I see he's been chewing his lower lip again, a nervous habit he doesn't realize. Freshman year deserted us too quickly, and now everyone's parents are arriving with moving vans. You could stay in my basement, I say to help him. We have a couch. But he's too distracted to hear. A highlighter slips from his shaking fingers. He glances from me. This summer, I am learning to talk to my father, he whispers. And then he hands me the book, stares out at the road people like us never stop traveling, and asks me to quiz him on the lyrics and meter of Trojan battle cries. Thank you, Ro. So this is my, I guess, fourth time to have the pleasure of being a part of Mindful Poetry Moments. And a couple of times that's been, we've been looking at a poem by somebody else. And I guess this is the second time in which the poem has been by me. And a fun part about reading somebody else's poetry is you get to kind of guess and participate in this guesswork and figuring out and seeing what you can explore from it. And then a fun part about considering one's own is you know the story of how it came about, or at least you think you know the story of how it came about, but often you find out there were things you didn't even realize yourself. And sometimes being a part of a group is a way for that exploration to happen. But today I wanted to share a little bit about the poem and some of how the story of how it came about. And that can lead us to the process that we can experience together today. I have 3 rounds of connected prompts. So we'll see what time allows, and we'll make sure to have time for sharing toward the end. So here in Mindful Poetry Moments, of course, we're pairing mindfulness and poetry, which I think is kind of part of what this poem is maybe up to. Mindfulness encourages us to pay close attention, to pay attention to our breath or to what our bodies are up to. And sometimes our breath is going on all the time, right? And it's something that we overlook. It's not necessarily the star of the show or the star of the day. We might be more interested in the dialogue we had with someone, or the ways that we made money, or we're proud of ourselves for being productive. But our breath is always there, sort of supporting us. I could even say playing a supporting role or being a supportive character. But then mindfulness encourages us to pay attention to it and to notice this thing that maybe we're overlooking that's sustaining us. And to me, this poem is kind of doing that as well. It's progressing. Maybe we could look at it quickly again. Ro, thank you. So we've got these sort of famous characters who are here in the library. It's hard to tell people apart because all these famous people are so boisterous and wanting to be seen, right? Gilgamesh, who, by the way, his story is called the Epic of Gilgamesh. So he's definitely the main character of his story. And we've got these famous folks from history, Joan of Arc, this valiant warrior. We've got Johann Gutenberg, who, to whom we owe the existence of books, and the Bible. There's a Bible, the Gutenberg Bible, that's even kind of paired with him. So these folks who are so well known, and it's hard to tell people apart, except the people who are really set apart are the ones we're not seeing, right? Who are in the corner. If you're an English professor, then maybe when you're with your coworkers, you talk about the Iliad and the Odyssey over lunch. But if you are a normal person living a normal life, you might not as much. So maybe I could remind that the Iliad is the story of the Trojan War, the Trojan horse, all these things. Odysseus is one of the warriors in that, and the sequel story is the Odyssey, named after Odysseus, and it's his long journey to return home after this. And it takes him 10 years to get back to his wife Penelope and to his son Telemachus, who was a child when he left, and now Telemachus is an adolescent, or a young adult in his own right. And so he's this character who we can stop looking if we want now, Ro, thank you. So he's this character who I became really interested in, kind of like, what's his story? His father's the big famous one, and he's only a supporting character in his father's story. But what must it be like to be this person whose father's been gone for all these years, having these amazing adventures, and even having year-long dalliances with witches that prevent him from returning home. Sometimes it's battles that are keeping him from coming, or these trials he's running into, but sometimes he's delayed by his own choices. He's choosing to be away from Telemachus. And what might it be like to be this person whose growth into adulthood has grown into an adult who looks very different from his father, and his father has maybe even kind of forgotten about him. So I was thinking about that. I was actually working on a short story about Telemachus, and then realized it needed to be a poem. And I realized that Telemachus also had his story of departure, if we're putting him in the contemporary world, that he could go away to college and have his own kind of growth and change. And when he comes home for summer, he's also a somewhat different person. This person who has this fear of connecting with his father, who's been absent for so long, so much so that he has to study, not for a final exam, but for the real important test, which is being able to talk to his dad. Some readers have pointed out that maybe one of the differences between Telemachus and his father is sexual orientation. Maybe Telemachus in this poem is gay, and we see that the speaker, who one might assume is male because I'm a male poet, seems to know Telemachus very intimately. And that's something that as I was writing and showing it to early readers, that was kind of there and kind of popped up, but it's not explicitly there. And I know that Ro told me that that they had shared this at the Mercantile, in a conversation about looking for LGBT heroes in texts that we wish were there, that we wish were in library books. And I love that, because that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing with Telemachus, the Telemachus who existed on the page before I was ever born. Then I kind of came along and said, what might his life be like here? And then now this Telemachus I've put on the page, now somebody else can read into it and see how that story can be effective for them. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit later. But so let's grab our pens and notebooks or computer screens and kind of think about this idea of who are some of the supporting characters in the stories that you love, be those fables, fairy tales, the Narnia series, something you read as a child, or something that you read as an adult, a novel you recently read, your favorite movie. Who might some of these characters be who are like the breath, who are sustaining the main big stars, but maybe have lessons to teach us that we've overlooked? Rana was talking about connecting to our teachers. Could these sideline characters have something to teach us? So this first prompt is to think of one of these folks, and we'll work with this fictitious person a couple of times, and just ask yourself, what might they have to teach me or say to me that I maybe haven't heard before, didn't realize I needed to hear. If you would like a sort of fill in the blank shell, you could say character's name, leans in, whispers to me that. Lucy from Narnia leans in and whispers to me. And you could just kind of keep filling in that sentence again and again. We can do that for, let's say, about 5 to 6 minutes, and just fill that in. She leans in and whispers to me. She leans in and whispers to me. She whispers to me. She whispers to me. What might you could learn from her? And if you can bring that to a pausing place, not necessarily stopping, but pausing. And to share a little bit more about the poem, I would say that I revised it many times through many versions, always having basically the same ending of, and then he hands me the book, stares out at the road, and asks me to quiz him on the lyrics and meter of Trojan battle cries. And it was the moment when I realized that wasn't quite the ending and that it needed to say the road that people like us never stop traveling. That's what unlocked the poem and how I knew that it was done. Because there was more to it all along. There was this inclusion of self, not only the idea that the speaker as the observer has something to notice, about Telemachus and the fact that he chooses his lips, but that they're in this thing together, and that that perhaps even there's a way that the speaker can contribute to Telemachus. Telemachus, doesn't accept the invitation of the couch, doesn't even hear the invitation of the couch, but we're part of this journey together, this journey of trying to speak to family, for example, which personally for me connected to, some difficult conversations that I needed to have and with people I loved, right? And this journey of trying to figure out how to do that. So the process of revision itself, I think, is this example of learning from a text. What can the text teach me that I didn't know, or what could the character teach me that I didn't know, as well as investing oneself. These events are co-hosted by On Being, and I don't know if you heard last week the conversation that was shared between Krista Tippett and Aviva Zornberg, who is a master of Midrash, the ancient Jewish art of inquiry for discovering the deepest of meaning in between the biblical lines. I found it quite compelling, and let me share a little bit of that conversation. Krista quoted Aviva Zornberg saying, you had written in your book, what really happened in Egypt during Passover becomes a less important question than how best to tell the story, where to begin, what in the master story speaks to one and therefore makes one speak. And Zornberg said, it's not telling the story so as to remember what happened. It happened so as to be the stimulus for a meaningful story. And the stories will develop and change through time. And perhaps in the end or along the way, you might find yourself telling a better story than what was actually written in the text. There is a fixed text, but it's supposed to be just kind of an opener for the proliferation of more ideas and more attempts to tell the story in a way that will become closer to what really can affect us. And so the next prompt is sort of reversing what we just did and asking ourselves, how can we contribute to the story that's on the text, or even perhaps rewrite or revise it a little bit by offering some wisdom that we personally have to the character you started with. So before we were asking, what can the character teach me? Now the question is, what could I teach the character, or what could I share with the character? How could I learn by doing or learn by experiencing alongside the character if I could enter into the story? So you might say something like, dear character, dear Pammy Buchanan from Great Gatsby, let me tell you, that could be your shell. Dear, let me tell you. Does that make sense? So we'll spend about, let's say about 4 minutes with this, just seeing what we can start. Drawing on from the wisdom that you have from your own life. Let's say about a minute more before we bring it to a pause. Okay, and if you can bring that to a pausing, please. So it's April, it's National Poetry Month, part of why we're here today. Um, it's a exciting time for me as both a reader and writer of poetry, a lot of events. And this year I've been, and I maybe had kind of a theme of thinking about how poetry helps us in our lives. Yeah, I think that's in part because of this anthology that has come out this year during National Poetry Month, The Path to Kindness by James Cruz. It's the sequel to his How to Love the World, Poems of Gratitude. This one's Poems of Connection and Joy. And I just kind of thinking about this and how these poems are all about these things we want to focus on and experience and present to others, kindness. Weekend before last, I led a 3-hour workshop with in the series We're All Poets. And sort of my assertion was that poetry helps us live our lives off the page, our off the page lives better. And then our off the page lives also teach us how to write poetry. And so they're kind of like training grounds for each other. And if there are particular skills you might hope to foster in your life, maybe poetry can be a way sometimes for that. And so here we are today thinking through poetry about those who are overlooked. My students have shared with me, there was years ago, there was this dictionary of sadnesses, and they had all these different types of sadness. And one was sonder. And I think that one maybe is kind of stuck around beyond that dictionary project. But as they tell me, sonder is the realization that you are the main character of your life and your story, but everybody else is also the main character of theirs. And so you are just a small side character in someone else's life, which that realization can be sad. I also think that realization seems kind of a relief. You know, they have their things to worry about. I have my things to worry about, and maybe I'm pretty small. Like I'm in a coffee shop anxious about X, Y, and Z, and there's 30 people. They're all anxious about their own things, and I'm just a blip in their life of anxiety. So maybe not so much depends on me as I might like to think. But so now, oh, also, and with mindfulness too, there's this type of mindfulness, loving kindness meditation that I've been doing a little bit over the past few weeks. And it's, you know, you're invited to think sort of positive thoughts. May you be happy, may you be healthy towards different people, including people who are people you don't even really know, or you kind of have a passing experience with, you know, so the barista in your coffee shop, maybe. So I invite you to think about someone who is perhaps a supporting character in your life, or another way to say this, you're a supporting character in their life, such as, you know, the teenager who cuts the neighbor's grass, or the telemarketer who calls you when you're already stressed at work and don't have time to talk, the receptionist at the doctor's office, someone who you might not, when you're recounting your day, they might not be a person who you make much of a character. But think about that person and then ask yourself one of these two questions again, or both. What did they have to teach me? Or what might I be able to teach them or share with them? So we'll spend about 4 minutes with that, seeing how our experience doing that with a literary character might have prepped us a little bit to do this generous exercise with real people. So spend about 4 minutes, and then we'll have the chance to share anything you like from any of these 3 go rounds. And if you can bring that to a pausing, please. And if you're ready and would like to share, maybe you can raise your hand on the using the emoji. Raise your hand, and we'll see how many folks we have the time to hear. It's under reactions there at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Okay, well, shall we start with Stacy and then Sarah Pino?
This was such a fun prompt. Thank you so much. So I chose to take on Tammy Buchanan, the toddler daughter of the Buchanans in The Great Gatsby. And so I'm going to blend the first and second prompt. Tammy Buchanan is so bored. Her mother has wilted in the heat and her father is off to town. She spied me, the newcomer, not Mr. Caraway, but me, Penelope, from town delivering summer hats. Tammy spies me from behind a couch, then a potted plant, then throws herself fully at my feet. So I would have to step over her to move on. She curly-cued her finger to me, beckoning me to the floor. I obeyed. These were the Buchanans after all. And found it was 15 degrees cooler down there. We lay there, belly down, heads to each other for a good long while, trading funny faces. I got another beckon to come closer. Tammy whispered to me, "Are you invisible too?" It took my breath away, her question, seeing us for what we were in the family of things, secondary, non-essential, ornamental, childish, all of which is no good for a children's game on a hot summer day on a veranda floor. So I whispered back, "Yes." And it is so exciting to be invisible like this. We can learn all the secrets of the world as spies. And then we band together and we layer clay on each other to sculpt us into visibility as poets, hat makers, artists, dreamers, healers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that idea of the invisibility that seems negative can actually, we find the positive. Sarah and then Rana. You might be, I can't hear you, Sarah.
Okay, this is probably, sorry, I'm called through my phone. I think you can probably hear me now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Sarah, we still can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Sorry, I called through my phone, so I never know how it works. He is antsy, a voice tells him, run. He runs himself spent. Food appears. His eyelids droop. Soft blankets embrace him. He awakens alone. Warm arms reach for him. He is antsy. Crayon surface on a mini table. Her eyes seek out the wisdom of his imagination. On the page, 6 figures. Dad, sister, him. Where is she? Her breath catches. I lean in and whisper, you are the skin he wears, the air he breathes. You are his consciousness itself. Why would he think crayons could contain you? And the title is Dotson. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Uncontainable. Rana and then Natalie.
Okay, this does not have a title yet. Mary leans in and whispers to me, "Go." She leans in and whispers, "My name is Mary, daughter of woman, aged 44, skin black, teeth white, back strong, $1,440 for 150 pounds of flesh. Cleans house." She leans in and whispers to me, "Go." She shows me her arms, shakes at me, her arms. They glisten, they glare. Sunbeams spill from her forearms, her legs shine, her feet calloused, her hands thick. Clap, clap, go. I am your bridge to everywhere you ever needed to be. Mother Mary, you have carried far too many for too long. Rest here now in the meadow we have planted. Me, the seed blooming, bringing your bright arms to an arc, encircling me like the sun. Emerging through the light, we choose our way. He dusts the footsteps, scrubs the interiors of unseen places. We came here to help you rest, he says. I smile at his face. Man, 43, skin black, teeth strong, back sturdy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Natalie and then Elena.
Hi, thank you. This is from the Charlotte's Web inspired. So, Charlotte, a voice unexpectedly whispers, "You are enough." Bewildered at the idea that a spider could speak, I brush her off, not knocking her web of home, but her words. They whispered louder this time. "You are loved." Startled I am. Are you speaking to me? I don't even know you. How can I believe what you say, for I've never met you along my way? But you do know me, clearly she states, for this is use whispering inside your head. Dear Charlotte, I must reply. I hear the voice without disguise. My heart compelled joins us now, for it felt dark like a rainstorm cloud. Bold, red bright, my heart renewed by the whispers of loving dew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That suggestion that the wisdom is even already there, like the voice is inside. Thank you. Elena and then Wade.
Hi, everyone. My name's Elena, and I'm a hopeless romantic, and one of my favorite authors is Jane Austen, and my favorite Jane Austen novel is Mansfield Park. And I wrote to Fanny Price's younger sister, Susan. The sister left behind whispers to me, persevere. Your principles are more important than an advantageous marriage. Hold out for what is true and beautiful, and it will come to you. Like the lilies in the field, find your place. If you are alone, persevere. Maybe this is your path. The monk lives alone, but is available to everyone. And I'll read a little of the letter. Dear Susan Price, obedient daughter that you are, do not place your trust in riches or flowery words. Trust your heart and your older sister, Fanny. She has experienced everything that you are about to. Everything is better now. You are coming to Mansfield Park with a light heart. The world can be a cruel place. There is war and slavery, but a pure heart like yours can heal the world.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Wade and then Benjamin.
All right. Mr. Toad leans in and whispers to me, at least he believes it a whisper, that you cannot be too concerned about whatever is said in there. I lean in close and bellow, out here too, old fellow, out here too. Preening in the sunshine, the rat explains how along the riverbank one greets absence with silent acceptance. Staring into the sky, I sing of raindrops on a spring day. And precious, precious Molly reminds me that Dulce Domum is never far beyond the tip of my nose. And I remind the mole that never is ever if it only looks outside. And the terrible, terrible wide world, that is most certainly much too much.
Thank you. Benjamin and then Troy.
Thank you, everybody. Hey, these are glorious. My name is Bet. So my poem is called Tribute to Gray. So the color gray, usually a minor character, and now it's the protagonist. Maine, the rocks sharp, luminous with wet, waves wild with diamond. The sun is not out, the clouds are. Gray gets its chance to be beautiful. Gray is softer than light, softer than dark. Gray allows everything else to be spectacular. In Gray's kingdom, the ferocious wind can be itself. It pushes me like a cousin who loves me so much it doesn't know. The wind keeps its arms around my shoulders because I'm so happy, so sad. Its arms are around my shoulders like a sister who has just run up to me, panting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Troy and then Maureen.
So starting with Rana's exercise, I was thinking of Howard Thurman, who's been an influential teacher, though I've never had the opportunity to meet him. And so then when you took the pivot to like who's a character in his life, and I had read a bit over the years about his wife, but I did have to look her name up, Sue Bailey. And then there's a turn at the end when you asked about strangers, where I was thinking about the corner store here in my neighborhood. So here we go. Sue Bailey leans in and whispers to me, Howard didn't always consent, but those eyes of his told me he wanted to. When we took boats and trains to sit with Gandhi, he was nervous and eager, entering the silk embroidered cotton tents with his shoes off. The nerve center of his consent was visible, even to the small Hindu man who asked us to sing Amazing Grace. We weren't weighed down by knowing what would be possible like you are. We moved to San Francisco with his laughter. Was it hubris, or did he always have that sense of self-effacing humor? It's hard to hear the genuine when at the end of the strings of movers and new landlords and universities, it's easy to forget the genuine when I remember I'm a second wife. But I believed it would come with us, that the sound of the genuine would be there in the fellowship of all peoples. Dear Mrs. Bailey, when you sat in those hard library chairs researching Black history of the West, were you too tired that so little would be read? Were you too tired of being compared to his voice? Were you too wrestling to find your genuine in the presence of his? Tell me what home meant for you, following him from home to home to home. Tell me why you met the students, so many faces, brown, black, and white. Like the dark face of the cashier at the UDF, generous to my large white body, through a smile on warm days or an eye roll about colleagues and customers on another, quiet and making no eye contact on days of hardship or private work. What is genuine, if not the hand on a peanut butter milkshake, handing and receiving, holding the everyday, trying when we can, with hubris or humor, to give the fluid area of our consent to whatever we've got right in front of us.
Thank you. Maureen, and then finally Josiane.
Thank you. That was beautiful, Troy. So my character is Dinah. She is the only daughter of Leah and Jacob in the Bible. Um, there's debate whether or not trigger warning, sexual violence and violence towards women. There's debate about whether she was raped or just perceived as violated because she had premarital sex. Dinah leans in and whispers, "Speak up." The power in her silenced voice, embodying the duality of women as coveted. Good timing. The power in her. This is just adding a dramatic effect. Ignore it, Dia. Dinah leans in and whispers, "Speak up." The power in her silenced voice, embodying the duality of women as coveted creators of life and those whose life does not belong to them. Virgins or whores, the narrative favors the storyteller. You defend our honor because you've made it your own. Obey your mother, protect your sister, love them at all costs. We still haven't learned that freedom can't be bought. And what to do with your lovers and wives, the mother of your children. Their value changes with their cycles. More than bloodshed, it's a massacre. How they mutilate our bodies, ravage our existence, and claim our birthright. And though you are bound to the phallic fallacy, fantasy, our truth is absolute. And that is, we are free. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. And lastly, Josiane.
Thank you. Thanks, Maureen. That was a beautiful poem. My character is Shams of Tabriz, who is the supporting character, I guess, from all the Rumi literature that I read. Shams of Tabriz leads in and whispers to me, "Fly straight because the path bends anyway. The future is old and layered. The soil you finger is smudged with everything you hold sacred. Dear storyteller, dweller, what do I hold? What do my hands make sacred in their secret clasping? What is today that isn't already everything time hasn't owned? I have been shown in my dwelling why stories do not help make a house a home, and what good my hands are and what good my hands are for not clasping secrets, but for planting seeds into soil, and that sacred is indeed smudged into everything."
Thank you, thank you. Thanks all for sharing and for being a part, making this happen. Shall I read the poem one last time, and then maybe if Stacy needs to make any announcements?
I think I'll make a couple announcements and then we'll let you read us out, Brad. Once again, spectacular wowness. I'm gobsmacked every single time with these gatherings. Particular thanks to beautiful Rana, Brad, to your gorgeous, kind, heartfelt work, and you're just such a beautiful teacher. So thank you for taking us through those prompts and allowing us to just keep working a central concept. Next week is our last week for Poetry Month gathering. So I'll be doing the meditation. We're so excited to have Manuel Iris reading his own work in both English and Spanish. So please come back. Ro will be sending out an email that just reminds you of, yeah, we could all listen to Brad read the phone book old school. So we'll set that up once. It feels more like a fall activity for you, Brad. Where am I? Okay, Ro's going to send a note that basically invites you to send poems from today to put onto the blog. And then after next week, we'll be writing you all about selecting some of your work from this month to be published in our book and other events. We'll also include links to Brad's work and all the other usual partner love. And thank you to Mary for doing our live transcripting. And I think without any further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to Brad. And Ro, can you put up the poem one more time?
On the last day of the semester, the library is so crowded with raucous historical and literary figures, it's hard to tell people apart. But here, on the left, past Gilgamesh doing handstands on the checkout desk and shout reminding everyone he was twice crowned homecoming king, past him, and past giggly Johann Gutenberg photocopying trashy romance novels for his frat brothers, beyond Pope Joan and Joan of Arc and Jonah, who lurks by the two women and makes whale calls, hoping to mate with either one in the microfiche room, is the quiet corner window where I sit with Telemachus, son of Penelope. But he's difficult to recognize because he's lost the all-American smile the whole campus loved. In front of his face, he holds a crumpled copy of The Iliad. He sets the book down onto stacks of flashcards, and I see he's been chewing his lower lip again, a nervous habit he doesn't realize. Freshman year deserted us too quickly, and now everyone's parents are arriving with moving vans. You could stay in my basement, I say to help him. We have a couch. But he's too distracted to hear. A highlighter slips from his shaking fingers. He glances from me. This summer, I am learning to talk to my father, he whispers. And then he hands me the book, stares out at the road people like us never stop traveling, and asks me to quiz him on the lyrics and meter of Trojan battle cries.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
You all.
Love everyone. See you next week. Bye.